Revenue Allocation Formula Review Commission begins public hearing today. Central Bank of Nigeria to invest in wheat farming fixes value chain. All steady ahead of OPEC Plus supply policy meeting. Plus, the program takes a look at insurance as Nigeria marks 61 years of independence. Details of this and more on Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we are reaching you live from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Musa Abubakar. Let's bring you up to speed with business development. The Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission has commenced the process of reviewing the current revenue allocation formula for government in the country with a two-day public hearing for the Southwest Zone in Lagos. The Southwest public hearing will kick off the nationwide consultations expected to lead to a new revenue sharing formula for the country. The participating states are Lagos, Ekiti, Oyo, Ogun and Ondo, as well as Osun. Under the current sharing arrangement, the federal government takes 52.68% of the revenue shared. States get 26.72%, while the local governments get 20.60%. The Commission said the current review will focus only on the vertical allocation, which covers allocations to the federal, states and local governments and does not imply reduction in the cost of governance. A reschedule of the public hearings released by the Commission shows that the South-South Zone will hold in Rivers State on the Thursday, October 7 to Friday, October 8, with participants expected from Rivers, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Cross River, Delta and Edo states. For the Southeast, which holds in Imo states from October 11 to 12, participants are expected from Abia, Anambra, Ebonyi, Enugu and Imo states. But the Central Bank of Nigeria has developed a strategic action plan to boost wheat production by addressing the existing challenges in its value chain to boost foreign reserves. The Director of Development Finance Department at the CBN, Yila Yusuf, disclosed this in Abuja at a wheat conference and stakeholder engagement with team improving and sustaining the wheat value chain development in Nigeria. Ila disclosed that wheat is the second highest contributor to the country's food import bill, putting pressure on the country's foreign reserve as over $2 billion was spent annually on the importation of over 5 million metric tons of wheat. He added that the CBN seeks to focus attention on the wheat value chain for 2021-2022 dry season planting through financing massive production of wheat in Nigeria and facilitate sustained availability of high-yield seed variety in the country. This is coming after the progress made across the rice and maize value chains. Still on commodities, Nigeria is set to explore the potentials in pawpaw, being the fourth largest producer of dwarf pawpaw fruit in the world with more than 800,000 metric tons per annum. To this end, the Commodities Department of the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, in collaboration with pawpaw growers and processors, is set to provide a framework for increased value chains through innovation, improve access to mechanization and market.
I've already started doing my research and making contacts around Europe to develop our market structure. One of the things we are going to do the first 100 days in office is to visit people who are already using pawpaw for bad products, and also see their challenges and meet with other stakeholders who can help us to launch a new footprint and a master plan for pawpaw industry.
And Ahoro OG4 is leading a team of 22 other executives to ensure the pawpaw value chain works. Gold prices edged down on Monday with a firmer dollar deeming bullion's appeal. Let's see prices of other commodities. The World Bank states Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program, SIFTAS, created by the federal government, has begun to assess the performance of states. In Edo State, the Communication Specialist SIFTAS Program Coordination Unit, Ibrahim Muhammad, led a media team on a tour of agencies in the state to take a look at processes, operations and procedures that led to achievement of results so far at 10.
In 2019, emerged one of the best performing states in the 2019 Annual Performance Assessment by SIFTAS. The media team from the Federal Ministry of Finance took their tour to some agencies in the state, including Edo State Geographic Information Service, Edo GIS, Edo State Internal Revenue Service, Edo State Public Procurement Agency, as well as the Office of the Accountant General of Edo State. Interaction cut across disbursement-linked indicators of SIFTAS achieved by the state in the areas of property and building enumeration, improved revenue generation, e-procurement, and budget transparency.
For example, the pension arrears as at 2018 when we started was 2.6 billion. If you look at our financial statement of 2020, it was already reduced to 522 million. And as at the first quarter of 2021, we had paid off that, that liability. So that is the extent to which the program has encouraged the state, to do better in managing government finances.
Ibrahim Muhammad, who represented the National Program Coordinator, Stephen Okon, wants other states to emulate best performing states like Edo and adopt good fiscal behavior for desired results.
Beyond the disbursements, what happens after the lifespan of this SIFTAS, which is going to terminate in 2022? So we want continuity. That's why there are these institutional, legal, and system reforms put in place. We are also calling on the media and the civil society as agents of change and public enlightenment to continue to advocate for the consolidation of the ideals and the gains made.
There were attestations to the impact of SIFTAS in terms of prompt payment of entitlements. SIFTAS is an agreement between the federal government and the World Bank designed to increase and strengthen fiscal capabilities of participating states. In Benin, Udakobong Achibong.
I have with me an insurance expert, Ekirete Olagam Ikon. He is the CEO of Finteret Projects. You're welcome to Business Express. I hope I get the name right.
Thank you very much. You tried.
Okay, Nigeria at 60. Can you take us to the developments in the insurance sector?
Oh, wow. At 61, Nigeria has made quite some progress with insurance. I would say thanks to COVID. Okay. Because it completely broke down everything, and then we can now see that the dependence on uncles and aunties is becoming difficult.
Because I would like to talk about the COVID now, but just tell us about the development before the COVID.
Okay, so before the COVID, we continue to have challenges with awareness and all of that, and then the bad image, so to say, about insurance. But I think after COVID, you know, and as Nigeria enters 61, people have become more aware of the importance of insurance. Okay. And so, like I said, you can no longer depend on other people to help you. You've got to find a way out, and one of the ways to find out is insurance.
Okay. Now, with the COVID,
yes,
how's the insurance sector coping?
It's been very challenging, okay, because it's been a crisis for everyone. However, therein lies the opportunities, and some companies have taken advantage of it, because you can no longer do business the way you used to do it. You don't no longer wait for people to come. You can reach them, you know, and engage them whichever way. So COVID has made it interesting, and it's also led us to rethink the kind of products we have, the way we reach people, and so there are demands for new kinds of products. And the insurance companies are working seriously to deliver that.
What are those new kind of products?
Okay, so people are now, you know, during COVID lockdown and all of that, you couldn't move your car. You know, so the question was, what's the sense of paying for insurance for 1 full year and not using my car? So new thinking around it now says, what can I do? Can I buy insurance for a short-term period, for 2 weeks, for 1 month, instead of paying for 1 year? It's always been there, really, but insurance companies are now forced to look at it because customers are making those inquiries.
Okay, with the COVID, we've seen increased mortality rates with possible rise in COVID-19 related claims. Is life insurance still profitable?
Life insurance is profitable and will always be, because it's a long-term thing. Okay. You know, Nigeria is actually just, in my own view, getting into doing a lot more of life insurance. You know, because of course the law requires that every employer has to do life insurance for his employees. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's happening, and then people are beginning to see that it makes sense to have a life cover. You know, I'm only hoping that we can someday, you know, as part of the new thinking, also extend, you know, the collateral that banks ask for to be your life insurance policy. Okay, it's possible, and that should happen. So we begin to see some interesting times in insurance, rather than just hold the policy and look at it and wonder what you're going to do with it until somebody dies. Okay. Yeah.
Wow. I've not thought about that, but really, amid the pandemic, did we see an extension of health sector, health cover, to include pandemic-related claims?
Yes, the possibility is there, especially because we have some, you know, foreign insurance companies operating in Nigeria, and so they are testing it because it's happening in other markets, and so why can't we have it in this market? And then some leading local insurance companies are also, you know, competing in that regard, because everything now is dependent on what the customers are asking for, really. The days of designing it and thinking that that's what should happen, we're getting past that. Okay. We're getting past that.
Okay, away from COVID-19, now let's look at recapitalization of the industry to boost capacity. How impactful has the previous exercise been?
See, let me say this. Recapitalization is not, in my own view, something that we should put on the table and be discussing. If you are in business and you want to do big business, you've got to get big capital to do big business. That's the way I see it. So why would we go into all this discussion about recapitalization? You have to have this capital level to operate and all of that. If you're in business to operate, you need, and if you want to do big business,
but you need some backup. You know, you need a backup. Somewhere.
Yeah, backup for insurance is reinsurance. Yeah,
okay.
And so if you are in business and you're serious about your business, you need good capital to do the business, and so you need reinsurance to do the business. We've had that process of the regulator trying to make it happen, and it's not happening. But I do believe that the serious companies have now taken it serious. They are not waiting for a regulator anymore, because the opportunities are there in front of you, and if you have to do it, you've got to have big money.
Okay, tell us about compulsory insurance policies. How does it work?
Compulsory insurance policies are policies that government decides to put in place to ensure that you and I, you know, are covered. You know, have covered in case your action affects my action, I'm covered. Which is why you have the third-party policy for motor as compulsory. You know. Unfortunately, people still don't understand it. They believe, oh, it's to enable me get past the policeman or the security guy on the road. You know, the policy gives me, if I have a third-party policy, it gives me up to 1 million to fix your car. So why would anyone hit someone's car and come out and be crying on the street, begging and all of that? get a third-party policy. And then if there's a bodily injury, to someone in your car, that same third-party policy covers it. So these are things that I believe we are doing a lot more, trying to let people know that these things are available. And then the other compulsory kinds of insurance, there are about, 5 other compulsory kinds of insurance: those buildings under construction, the public buildings where people walk in and out every day. Health professionals need to have insurance so that if something goes wrong, and then the group life insurance is also compulsory. But there are other kinds of insurance that you need to have. Marine insurance, it's compulsory. If you are importing anything, you will have to declare it, and then you have to do insurance for it. So these things are happening to help us. And that's why I say to people that sometimes, especially when you are in government or an organization, and they do insurance for you, all sorts of things have been put in place to ensure that you live at peace. But we don't seem to be taking advantage of it because we are used to, helping ourselves our different ways.
Okay,
but insurance is here to help.
The insurance sector, unlike the banking sector, have taken advantage of the digital space. I mean, things like fintech.
Yeah.
The same cannot be said of the insurance sector.
Yeah, because insurance has typically always been responding to what happens. All right. So it's now that we are getting, insurance to be able to use some of those technologies to predict what can happen, and then put itself in a position where it can respond when things happen. But before now, it's been typically, you getting involved in a situation and then calling on insurance to help you. But now with technology, we are expanding that, and insurance is able to, prepare itself, better.
Okay, you said earlier, thanks to COVID-19.
Yes.
Okay, what about the place of enlightenment? How far have we gone?
Enlightenment, for me, is an ongoing thing. We can never stop. But the issue is, when you're communicating, you and I are talking, I can hear you, you can hear me. You are trying to tell the other person that insurance is good for you, for example, and it's not listening because he's got too many things on his mind, crowded. Until something happens, then he will remember, oh, someone was telling me about insurance. And unfortunately, you can't get insurance when that thing happens. You can only get it when you don't need it, so to say. And you hold it when something happens, now you now use it.
Okay, how best do we understand insurance?
How best you understand insurance is just knowing that for every day you wake up and go on the road, you face risk. So if you can answer the question of how do I deal with this risk, fine. But if you cannot, then you may need some insurance help to be able to deal with that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
it's
you.
always been a pleasure having you on
Thank
the
you
program.
so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Akerete Olagam Inko.
Yeah, okay.
I hope I tried this time. Right?
You did better the first time.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment Adeni Adebayo on Thursday declared that the federal government's diversification agenda was achieving positive results with the recent growth in the country's gross domestic product, largely driven by the non-oil sector. In his address at the second Anderson Africa-Europe Bridge conference held virtually, he said Nigeria, with a steadily growing GDP of over $500 billion per capita, is expected to reach $2,300 by the end of 2021, which he said is more than 84% higher than the African average, adding that in the first half of this year, investment announcements were at $10.1 billion dollars, an increase of 100% from 2020, with export potential in key commodities like palm oil, sugar, cassava starch, cotton, textiles and garments. This year's Africa-Europe Sustainable Development Bridge Conference centered on policy and its economic effects on agribusiness in various countries. Our study on Monday ahead of a meeting by OPEC and its allies, which may determine whether a recent rally in prices amid supply shocks and a recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic will be sustained. Brent crude was down 6 cents or 0.1% at $79.22 per barrel. It rose 1.5% last week, its fourth weekly gain in a row. U.S. oil dropped by 13 cents or 0.2% to $75.75 after gaining for the past 6 weeks. Oil prices have risen due to to the supply disruptions and a rise in global demand, pushing Brent last week above $80 to a near 3-year high. Next is a summary of NGX activities in the week ended with Bossade Abel.
The markets opened for 4 trading days last week as the federal government of Nigeria declared Friday, 1st October 2021 a public holiday to mark Nigeria's 61st independence anniversary. The NGX all-share index and market capitalization appreciated by 3.23% and 3.57% to close the week at 40,221.17 basis points and 20.9 trillion naira. At a turnover of 2.1 billion shares worth 16.1 billion naira in 14,377 deals were traded by investors on the floor of the exchange. All other indices finished higher, with the exception of NGX Insurance Index, which depreciated by 7.58%, while the NGX ASM and NGX Growth indices closed flat. The financial services industry led the activity chart with 778.4 million shares valued at 5.5 billion naira traded in 7,183 deals. The services industry followed with 775.7 million shares worth 2.9 billion naira in 416 deals. The third place was consumer goods industry with a turnover of 448.6 million shares worth 3.9 billion naira. The top 3 equities were Transcorp Hotels, Honeywell Flour Mill and FBN Holdings. They jointly accounted for 1.4 billion shares worth 6.9 billion naira in 1,017 deals. A total of 160,433 units of exchange-traded product CTPs valued at 52.3 million shares were traded in the week in 23 deals. Also, 41,267 units of federal government bonds valued at 42.5 million naira were traded in 17 deals. For summary of price changes, 33 equities appreciated in price during the week, 22 equities depreciated in price, while 100 equities remained unchanged.
Well, now let's join Ineka Oko with Global Market Report.
Welcome to the Global Market segment. Asian markets were mixed in Monday trade, with the Hang Seng Index in Hong Kong tumbling more than 2% following its return from a Friday holiday. The index fell 2.19% to 24,036.37. The Nikkei 225 in Japan also dropped 1.13%, while the Shanghai Composite in China added 0.9%. European stocks were mixed as markets began the first full trading week of October. Germany's DAX dipped 0.06%, with London's FTSE adding 0.12% and CAC 40 of France also topping 0.05%. US stock indices ticked lower on Monday, drawing from weakening sentiment in Asia and Europe. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 102 points, S&P 500 0.32%, and Nasdaq Composite 0.44%. In Africa, markets were mixed. While Tunisia and Namibia were in negative territory, South Africa, Kenya, and Ghana all posted gains. And that's Global Markets. I'm Neka Oko.
Well, that's it. Business Express returns Tuesday by 9:30 a.m.